We've got a major update here from a voter who Trump himself had a chance to persuade at a recent town hall. But first, to set the stage, here's what that interaction looked like between Trump and Ramiro Gonzalez.
I am a Republican, no longer registered though. I want to give you the opportunity to try to win back my vote. Okay. Your I'd say action and maybe inaction during your presidency and the last few years sort of, was a little disturbing to me. What happened during January 6th and the fact that, you waited so long to take action while your supporters were attacking the Capitol. Coronavirus, I thought the public was misled during coronavirus, and that many more lives could have been saved if we would have been informed better. And also people in your administration who don't support you. I'm curious how people so close to you and your administration no longer want to support you, so why would I want to support you? If you would answer these questions for me, I would really appreciate it and give you the opportunity. There's, your own vice president doesn't want to support you now.
Thank you, Ramiro.
So the people that don't support a very small portion. We have a tremendous, about 97% of the people in the administration support me. But because it's me, somebody doesn't support, they get a little publicity. The vice president, I disagree with him on what he did. I totally disagreed with him on what he did. Very importantly, you had hundreds of thousands of people come to Washington. They didn't come because of me. They came because of the election. They thought the election was a rigged election, and that's why they came. Some of those people went down to the Capitol. I said peacefully and patriotically, nothing done wrong at all, nothing done wrong. And action was taken, strong action. Ashley Babbitt was killed. Nobody was killed. There were no guns down there. We didn't have guns. The others had guns, but we didn't have guns. And when I say we, these are people that walked down. This was a tiny percentage of the overall, which nobody sees and nobody shows. But that was a day of love from the standpoint of the millions. It's like hundreds of thousands. It could have been the largest group I've ever spoken before. They asked me to speak. I went and I spoke. And I used the term peacefully and patriotically. If you look at the Democrats, what they say, you look at Maxine Waters and you look at Hillary Clinton and you look at what they say, and they don't put that on. They only put Republicans on. But they couldn't get me because of the fact that I said everything's got to be peaceful and patriotic. And we'll see how it all works out. But I think that we're right now in another election. All I want is honest elections. I'm willing to take any chance. I want honest elections.
We now have an update from that very voter in the aftermath of the word salad that was Donald Trump's response.
¿Recibió la respuesta que estaba buscando?
No. Yo vi lo que pasó. Yo estaba mirando el televisor y he visto muchos news clips y ¿sabe? De lo que pasó ese día.
Usted llegó indeciso a esta actividad. ¿Tiene una decisión hecha para hoy?
Yo no voy a votar por él.
And look, it's not all that surprising. First of all, what does it say about Trump that when the candidate himself had the opportunity to persuade a single voter, he couldn't do it? I mean, talk about what should have been a guaranteed home run. When does the candidate really have the opportunity to go one-on-one with a single undecided voter? Not too often. And yet Trump had that opportunity here, but because he is so brain-addled and incapable of any semblance of a coherent thought, all Trump managed to do was guarantee that he wouldn't get this person's vote. If you're wondering why Donald Trump is constantly surrounded by friendly hosts who nudge him in the right direction, it's because he is not capable of comporting himself in any way that voters would like. His interaction with this voter right here is a testament to exactly that. And just a few notes on Donald Trump's answer. He says that he, quote, totally disagreed with Mike Pence on what he did. For posterity here, what he did on January 6th was abide by the US Constitution and not bend to Donald Trump's whims that he unilaterally anoint Trump the winner of an election that he lost. Let's play a game here. If Joe Biden tells Kamala Harris to anoint herself the winner of the next election when she's performing her otherwise ceremonial role during the congressional certification on January 6, 2025, will that be okay if we're adopting this new Trump standard? Unless Trump thinks that the answer to that question is yes, then he is exposing himself as the anti-democratic hack that he actually is. He also goes on to claim that hundreds of thousands of people came to Washington not because of him, but because of the election. Yeah, they came to Washington because you tweeted, "Big protest in DC on January 6th, be there, will be wild." So I get that Donald Trump loves to traffic in revisionist history, but you can't just unsay your words and untweet your tweets. In fact, it doesn't seem like this voter, Mr. Gonzalez, is the only person to be pushed away.
Some of those people went down to the Capitol. I said, peacefully and patriotically, nothing done wrong at all, nothing done wrong. And action was taken, strong action. Ashley Babbitt was killed. Nobody was killed. There were no guns.
Notice this woman's face when Trump says the words, "Ashley Babbitt was killed, nobody was killed."
Ashley Babbitt was killed. Nobody was killed.
I mean, I'm sorry, but this guy is running for president of the United States, and yet he is physically incapable of putting together a coherent thought. Saying that someone was killed and then in the same breath saying that nobody was killed is not, in fact, a coherent thought. And voters are finally starting to recognize that, which may be why, by the way, Trump is now pulled out of a second debate with Kamala, out of a CNBC appearance, an interview with 60 Minutes, and just today, an NRA rally and an NBC interview. Why? Because Trump's handlers recognize what happens when voters hear from the guy himself. They do not like what he has to say, and he himself isn't capable of persuading anyone not already lost in the sauce. They've obviously figured out that the best way to help their candidate is to hide him as much as possible. There's also one more point worth noting here, and that is that Kamala Harris herself had the opportunity to speak to this exact same voter at her own town hall. Here's where that went.
Ramiro Gonzalez, our first question, he's in construction. He lives in Tampa. His home is there. Ramiro Gonzalez está en la construcción. Él vive en Tampa y tiene una pregunta para la señora.
And he's got a question for Ms. Vice President.
Buenas noches, señor.
Good evening, Ms. Vice President. I spent the entire night looking at news, tracking the hurricane that was going through my family's house. 2 weeks ago, there was another hurricane that came through the same neighborhood. They are saying, or rumors are, that your administration didn't do enough to respond to the last hurricane. What would you specifically do, or your administration do, to help us in the Tampa Bay area or the Central Florida area with this hurricane?
The administration didn't do enough in terms of relief for families affected by Helene. What would your administration do differently in the case of Milton?
Well, first of all, thank you for the question, and I hope your family is okay and your home is okay.
Yes, they are, ma'am.
Okay. So there's been a lot of mis and disinformation about what we have been doing over the last 2 weeks and what we are going to do going forward. And I have to stress that this is not a time for people to play politics. You know, I started my career as a prosecutor. And when I worked doing that job of my goal of keeping people safe, I never asked a witness or a victim of crime, are you a Republican, are you a Democrat? The only question I ever asked is, are you okay? And sadly, we have seen over the last 2 weeks since Hurricane Helene and now in the immediate aftermath of Milton, where people are playing political games, suggesting that resources and support is only going to certain people based on a political agenda. And this is just not accurate. I have been working over the course of the last couple of years, not even couple of years, my whole career, but couple of weeks, with people on the ground in Georgia, in North Carolina, in Florida, in the Southeast corridor, Republicans, Democrats, to work in getting relief that is about bringing FEMA resources on the ground, reminding people that they are entitled to relief. Don't listen to anyone who says that you're not entitled. Doing the work. I was just on a secure meeting today with the President, with the Secretary of Defense, with the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, with the head of the Coast Guard, with the General representing NORTHCOM, talking about how the federal, state, and local governments are working together for the benefit of the people on the ground. Another piece of work that I've been doing, it's based on my years of being an Attorney General in California, is telling those corporations and those companies that during crisis and emergencies, jack up prices, and I've seen it happen before, that we're watching them, and at a moment of desperation for these individuals and families, whether it be to be able to get temporary shelter at a hotel, for gas prices, for even airline tickets, that we'll be watching if they're jacking up prices, to make sure there'll be serious consequence. And that's the kind of work I will do going forward. I have spent my career, the vast majority of my career, concerning myself with the safety and well-being of people. And I promise you, and I pledge to you as president, I will continue to do that. You have a right to know that your government and its leaders are putting you first and not themselves.
Thank you, Madam Vice President.
Thank you.
The notion that these two candidates are in any universe at the same level when you compare Trump's answer to Kamala's is a wholesale denial of reality. If you're wondering why Mr. Gonzalez isn't going to vote for Trump, all you have to do is listen to the answer that Kamala gave him. We do not have to settle for some ranting, raving lunatic who can't express a coherent thought when you've got someone in the race who is empathetic, competent, doesn't wallow in victimhood 24 hours a day, and understands the sentence construct of subject, verb, predicate. So look, at this point, let this undecided voter's firsthand experience inform your own. Show this to your friends or family who might be in the same boat as Ramiro Gonzalez, and in the same way that he came to his decision, they'll have everything they need to come to theirs. Before you go, just a quick note, if you'd like to see more of my content, which is always free of advertising, sponsorships, and paywalls, please make sure to subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button right here on the screen. And if you'd like to support my work even further, you can grab a copy of my instant #1 New York Times selling book, Shameless, available for sale right now. That link is also on the screen. Thanks so much for watching.